Baik, cabaran utama dalam rangka bajet 2022 sudah pasti tekanan fiskal kerajaan susulan hasil yang lebih rendah.
Walaupun berdepan persekitaran global tidak menentu, indikator awal ekonomi negara yang positif menunjukkan dasar fiskal kerajaan dan perancangan di bawah Belanjawan 2023 membuahkan hasil.
Terdapat juga dasar khusus digubal untuk mengurangkan kos sara hidup rakyat di samping mengukuhkan kedudukan fiskal negara.
Hi, I am Namira Zulaika binti Azrul 3021 Juwan, and today I would like to present about definition of fiscal policy. Fiscal policy is the use of government spending and taxation to influence the economy. Government use fiscal policy to influence the level of aggregate demand in the economy in an effort to achieve the economic objective of price stability, full employment and economic growth. Next, the government has two levels of fiscal policy. First one is change the level and composition of taxation and change the level of spending in various sectors of the economy. Next, there are three main types of fiscal policy. First is neutral. This type of policy is usually undertaken when an economy is in equilibrium. In this instance, government spending is fully funded by tax revenue, which has a neutral effect on the level of economic activity. Next is expansionary. This type of policy is usually undertaken during recession to increase the level of economic activity. In this instance, the government spends more money than it collects in taxes. Lastly is contractionary. This type of policy is undertaken to pay down government debt and to cap inflation. In this case, government spending is lower than tax revenue.
Hi guys, my name is Chadek Lee, metric number 298485. I will discuss about the importance of fiscal policy and give the example of the fiscal policy. Now I will talk about the discussion the importance of fiscal policy to economics Malaysia. Fiscal policy plays a critical role in Malaysia's economy. Here are some of the reasons why it is important. The first one is supports economic recovery and growth. Fiscal policy supports Malaysia's strategy for economic recovery and growth. The Fiscal Policy Committee, chaired by the Prime Minister, reviews the country's latest economic performance and projection, the current and the medium-term federal government fiscal position, as well as public finance reform initiative. The second one is eases the burden of the resident. Fiscal policy has played an important role in supporting recovery momentum and easing the burden of the resident while maintaining fiscal discipline. The counter-cyclical measures implemented by the government have enabled the country to recover from the economic downturn. Next, the third one is achieve macroeconomic stability. An effective fiscal policy that strikes the right balance between growth consideration and fiscal sustainability is critical for Malaysia to achieve macroeconomic stability and sound public finance. The fourth one is the inflation control demand management. The government may affect the economy's aggregate demand and assist in reducing inflation by adjusting taxation and spending. The last one is employment creation. By investing money in infrastructure projects and other initiatives, government may reduce unemployment and increase economic stability by generating jobs. It also supports for SME as critical employers and a contributor to economic growth. Small and medium-sized businesses are frequently the focus of the fiscal policies. Some examples of fiscal policies. From 2014 to 2023, Malaysia implemented a series of fiscal policy to manage its economy. In 2014, the government initiated a subsidy rationalization programs. In 2015, the goods and service tax were introduced. This policy continued into 2016 and 2017, and economic diversification were also introduced. In 2018, following the general elections, the GST were abolished on June 1 and it placed the sales and service tax were introduced. The same year saw the introduction of the targeted fuel subsidy programs to repair blanket subsidies. The year 2020 and 2021 were marked by the COVID-19 pandemic, and the government response was characterized by a series of economic stimulus packages.
Hello everyone, my name is Farhana Delila binti Hafiz. My matrix number is 301345 and I will presenting about how taxes affect national income, federal government overall balance and federal government primary balance.
Next, I will talk about how taxes policy will affect the national income of Malaysia. So, Malaysia's national income is greatly influenced by its tax laws. So, here's how to do it. First, by increasing the tax base, the Goods and Services Tax (GST) was implemented in 2015 with the goal of expanding the tax base and generating more government revenue, both of which have the potential to raise national income. Next is the impact on household income. So the current tax system's modifications have had a notable effect on household income. Tax relief or charges in annual tax collection will also be impacted by budget planning for taxation. These modifications have an impact on the nation's ability to collect taxes. Last but not least is economic growth and recovery. So the focus of tax policy should be on sector growth and worker productivity. The decreases in total tax rates will make investing selections easier to make. One possible use for tax incentives is to promote investment in slow-moving sectors. Tax procedures must be transparent and free of costly bureaucracy. Now let's move on to how subsidies impact national income of Malaysia. First impact on government savings. The reduction in fuel subsidies led to significant government savings. These savings were redirected towards development projects and social programs which are more productive in terms of economic growth. The Malaysian government embarked on a subsidy rationalisation program starting in 2014. Focusing on reducing fuel subsidies to improve fiscal balance. Next is increased efficient resource allocation. Targeted subsidies ensure that government funds were used more efficiently, benefiting low-income households directly while reducing the fiscal burden. In 2019, Malaysia introduced a targeted fuel subsidy program to replace blanket subsidies, ensuring that subsidies reach the most needy households. Last but not least ensure business continuity. Subsidies help businesses survive the economic downturn, preserving jobs and maintaining economic activity. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the government introduced various economic stimulus packages. For example, Prihatin Bencana that include subsidies to support businesses and individuals.
My name is Hadika Akila, Huntishasi Norisham, Ilais Norisham, Laboratory 301039, and I'm going to discuss about data analysis for Malaysia fiscal policy from 2014 to 2019.
Malaysia has been running budget deficit for several years, with government spending consistently exceeding revenue. This is partly due to substantial public investment in development projects and social welfare programs. Next, the government has been managing high level of public debt. As of recent years, the debt to GDP ratio has been a critical focus, with efforts to keep it below a self-imposed ceiling. Subsequently, significant tax reforms have been implemented, including the introduction of GST in 2015, which was replaced by SST in 2018. These changes aim to broaden the tax base and increase revenue. Not only that, the government has been gradually reducing subsidies, especially for fuel, to reduce fiscal burden and redirect funds to more productive uses. During this period, Malaysia experienced a consistent fiscal deficit, though the government made efforts to reduce it. The fiscal deficit was approximately 3 to 4% of GDP annually. Government spending focused on infrastructure projects under initiatives like the Economic Transformation Program, ETP, and the National Key Economic Areas, NKEA, to boost economic growth. In 2015, the Goods and Service Tax (GST) was introduced to increase revenue, which was later repealed and replaced with the Sales and Service Tax (SST) in 2018 due to public opposition. The COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 necessitated substantial fiscal measures, increasing the fiscal deficit to around 6 to 7% of GDP in 2020 and 2021. The government introduced stimulus packages worth hundreds of billions of ringgit to support businesses and individuals, including wage subsidies, cash transfers, and tax relief. Post-pandemic recovery saw a gradual reduction in deficit, aiming towards fiscal consolidation by 2024, with a projected deficit of around 3 to 4% of GDP. Continued focus on infrastructure, digital economy, and green technology investment.
Moving on, we can see from this slide is the overview of the fiscal balance percentage of GDP for Malaysia from 2014 to 2023. Next, this is the COVID-19 economic stimulus packages and recovery plan that is called subsidies. Now let's talk about the federal government overall balance. The federal government overall balance is a measure of the government's total fiscal position. it represents the difference between total revenues and total expenditure of the government over a specific period, typically a fiscal year. This balance includes all forms of government spending such as current expenditures, example salaries, subsidies and maintenance, and capital expenditures, for example infrastructure projects, as well as all forms of revenue including taxes, fees and non-taxes revenues. Then, I will talk about the federal government primary balance. The federal government primary balance is a more specific measure of the government's fiscal position, excluding interest payments on existing debt. It is calculated by subtracting total expenditures, excluding interest payments from total revenues. On this slide, you can see the data of the federal government financial position from 2021 to 2023. Last but not least, this means that from 2014 to 2019, Malaysia experienced moderate deficits with efforts to manage fiscal balance through various reforms, including tax changes like the GST and SST. From 2020 onwards, the COVID-19 pandemic led to substantial increases in both overall and primary deficits due to necessary stimulus measures. So the future outlook is the government aims to achieve fiscal consolidation by reducing deficits through improved revenue collection and controlled expenditures, targeting sustainable economic recovery and growth.
Hi everyone, my name is Kok Le Ying and my metric number is 299452. Now I'm going to present the conclusion part. First of all, fiscal policy is a critical instrument for shaping Malaysia's economic landscape. From 2040 to 2023, Malaysia's fiscal policy have played a crucial role in shaping the nation's economy. This policy has supported the economic recovery and growth, eased burdens on residents, and ensure the macroeconomic stability. Key initiatives include the subsidy rationalization, the introduction and later abolition of the goods and services tax, various economic stimulus packages, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. Besides that, the impact on national income has been significant. The objective of tax policies like the GST and SST was to enhance revenues and increase the tax base in order to boost the national incomes. Changes to subsidy have improved the resource allocation and government savings, which were redirected to productive sectors, ending the economic growth. Overall, fiscal policies play an important role in ensuring the long-term well-being and development of Malaysia's economy. And so that's all for our group presentation. Thank you.